A glittering eye. You turn and there's a long, lank brown man at your shoulder. Listen, he says, I have a story for you. So do we want to listen to the story, leave, or turn the situation around? But I don't have a Z story, so I can't do that. I do have a tale of terror from the dude I just accidentally let drop on a stalagmite and impale himself, but do you want to hear the story? I think we do. Yeah, I want to hear the story. Something about a grey beard compels your attention. His story has a wedding full of murders and a leafless forest and a vast serpent which eats souls. The tale winds on and on like the serpent until you are lost in the dizzy toils of its sinister ships and its glamorous corpses. You not awake. He's gone. But not, it seems, before searching your pockets for small change. Hey! You pickpocket... You first... Well, kind of... made me go to sleep with a very apparently boring story full of murder and a serpent that eats souls, which made... I'm such a badass that I've fallen asleep at such lame stories. I've seen way worse on the Z myself. But I've gained 5 terror and lost 2 echoes. And I gained another tale of terror. So not a very favorable exchange. Anyway, we got the info. Yep. So we are gonna leave and head back to Fallen London with our very first accomplished mission for the Admiralty. So like the Admiralty is basically the dudes that give you your first quests. Or your first quests. So when I now return to Fallen London, there is a good chance that other people will have appeared and will give me more quests. But we'll have a look at that in just a second. That's all on my map. So this is what I wanted to show you. As you can see, this is the part of the map that I've seen, so that's pretty much half, I'd say. There's a few islands that haven't been filled in yet, like these islands over here, or these over here. Then, if islands are not yet in the game, they will be just black outlines. Like, you will see the island, like you see this one, but there won't be any artwork on it. It will just be a black outline. And you'll get a message in the bottom left saying this part of the game is not yet created, check back later. Okay. What does terror and echo stand for? I'll start with echoes. Echoes are the currency, so like euros or dollars, echoes are the currency of Sunless Sea. And terror is one of the stats that you can see here. It's the bottom one. This bar is my terror bar. And what happens is, as I sail through the dark, my terror increases. And, you know, kind of the darker it is, the faster my terror increases, which is a bad thing, because it basically means that me and my crew are getting more and more scared, and hence more and more paranoid. And if that goes on for too long, aka if my terror bar maxes out, my crew will start a mutiny. And I will most likely die. You will try to fight it. You get an option to fight your crew, but of course you lose a ton of crew, and you'll have to replenish those. And actually the chances are pretty big that you will actually die. Okay, so this is the first time that we return to Fallen London, so our first expedition has been a success. And the first thing you always do is collect your messages from the Harbour Master. So what has happened while I was away? So, oh, that's all for now, it says immediately, but someone must have signed on, and something has changed underneath. This is a message that pops up quite often, and I don't really know what it means at this point, so I'm not exactly sure as to what I should expect. So, here we go. This is a very friendly looking chap with a moustache and one eye with severe cataract, it seems. But he gives us a dispensation, as he calls it. So, a very fine evening to you, Captain. Or, a very fine evening to you, Captain. My, what you might call, mentor is very fond of your adventurous Z captains. of adventurous sea captains, and he would like to offer you what you might call a dispensation, on account of he's so fond of sea captains. Alright. And behind the blind bruiser on the dock stands a dray piled high with fuel and supplies. So this dude is giving us a ton of fuel and supplies, which we're gonna accept gladly. Bam. We now have 17 fuel and 8 supply. So then he says, well, my patron hopes that you find his little gifts to your liking, and he expects that perhaps someday you might choose to call on him at the Medusa's head. Should that day come, we will make you very welcome and give you any safe conduct which you might require. Good evening to you. So basically it kind of says, or it kind of implies that he expects us to return this favor by visiting his boss, his mentor, at the Medusa's Head, which is an island that I have not found so far, as of yet. So we might go on an expedition and find the Medusa's Head. And that might be one of our next endeavors. But I have now one suspicion, because of course the coppers don't like me letting myself in with these well, what do you call them? These bad aspects of society, with knives and cataracted eyes. But I've gained 10 fuel and 5 supplies, so these guys will, if my suspicion rises too high, then the cops will come after me, because they think I am a smuggler. And if my suspicion rises high enough, then I am probably being a smuggler. So in London I have my lodgings, I have my home, and this is a source of recent news, which is also a commodity that you can trade in the game, which we're gonna use in just a second. The Echo Bazaar, that enigmatic, wow, thanks mouth, marketplace has increased its tax on love stories. The traitor empress is forbidden singing in the street outside their palace. The anarchists of the Calendar Council have inexplicably dynamited the drinking fountain, and the Ministry of Public Decency has located and destroyed a nest of gall blighter wasps. So as you can see, there's an absolute metric shit ton of lore behind this game, which largely stems from the browser game I mentioned earlier, Fallen London. But anyway, I've lost 1 terror, which is good, and I've got some recent news. Now, in your lodgings, I'll just briefly show you this. There's the option to, even though it's permadeath, to transfer items or belongings, or well, echoes more like, to your future games, to your next game. Because it kind of assumes in the lore that when you die, your son takes over. So it's kind of a family tree, a family line of Z captains. So you can write a will with enough money, and when you have a fancy enough house, you can write a will and leave echoes for your next game. So you can start with a bit of a head start, and you can make heirlooms even, which are also worth money, of course, and you can sell them, and you'll get money as well. So you can also accumulate these heirlooms across different games. So there's still a bit of a mechanic that lets you evolve over time with more heirlooms, with more echoes in your will. So I do like that. I do like that. And you can even, when you've had enough, when you've lived long enough, you can retire, which is excellent. I love that there's an option to retire in a game where your job is to go out and adventure. What makes me go back from expedition? The terror bar? Yes, it's partly the terror bar, and it's also the fact that as I'm sailing, I'm using supplies and I'm using fuel. So if any of those runs out, when my food runs out, my crew will start, well, either first getting really hungry and then cannibalizing one another. And then in terms of fuel, when I run out, of course, I stall and drift aimlessly about until the end of my days. So I don't want either of that to happen, so that I go back to Fallen London, because supplies and fuel are the cheapest there. Well, almost the cheapest. There's some places where you can get them cheaper, but they're not very easy to get to. So I go back to Fallen London to gain, to restock, to reduce my terror bar, because every time you go back to Fallen London it goes back to 50, which is very practical, but there's a penalty to that, which I'll show you later probably. And also I can recruit new people here, which I'm gonna do now. I can recruit Maybe's daughter, I can recruit the Presbyterate Adventurers, and I can engage a Sailor, which will give me one more crew. Maybe's daughter is an engineer who increases veils, iron, and engine power. And the Adventuress is a gunnery officer who increases iron and veils. So these people can be put in my officer bar here when I acquire them, but they will cost me money, of course. And officers can be used, I'll tell you that as well. Officers can be used to level up stats, to increase stats here, which of course make it easier for you to survive on the Z. So this officer, Maybe's daughter, do I want veils, iron, and engine power? Or iron and veils only? Well, I think the option is pretty... She's cheaper, she increases veils, iron, and engine power. So engine power probably means that we're going faster. So I'm gonna go for Maybe's daughter. I think that's the most interesting option here. There we go. So now she's here in my officers tab. Look at her. Hello. So where do I put them? Put her, rather. Here in the chief engineer slot. So right, she's now giving me extra veils, which has increased, extra iron, which has increased, and my engine power goes up a bit, so we'll go faster. Excellent. Now then, let's go into London and visit the Admiral's Survey's office, the Admiralty Survey office, so we can first give me or hand in my Gators Morn port report. But that's not our strategic information, that's just a port report, which already gives us 30 echoes, which is good. We'll hand in the port report on Venderbight, because we've been there as well. So we give the intel on Venderbight for 10 echoes to the Admiralty Survey Office. And, here, the strategic information. What's that? Indeed, indeed. I'll send you up directed to speak to the Admiral himself. And the Admiral himself is like the shadiest character you've ever seen in your goddamn life. Look at this. Look at this dude. You're ushered into his office, a cramped room with a vast desk. He surveys you across that desk. Ah, yes. The merchant captain of whom we heard such complicated things. Right, so we pass on this strategic information that we have. And we gain 150 echoes for that. So, yep, GG, well played. We can retire now. I wish. No, actually, that would be very sad to end our adventure so soon. But yeah, 150 echoes. We now have 248 in total. That's amazing. And when I first started this game, gaining 248 echoes, that was like, holy god, I'm rich. So I'm gonna carouse in Wolfstack Docks, which will reduce my terror positively, but I might run into trouble or romance. But it says pretty good odds that I'll be lucky. And it costs 30 echoes, but now I have 30 echoes to spend. Here we go. A good night out with sea shanties, good companionship, and the warmth of a pub fire. So I now have one more recent news. Excellent. Lost my 30 echoes, of course, but I was fortunate and lost 5 terror. It's not easy to get rid of terror. I have to say that. It's not very easy to get rid of terror. Usually, most oftenly, the options you get reduce terror by 1 or by 5, but you gain like 30 or 40 terror sometimes during a single trip. So that is a bit of a kick in the teeth. So you really have to be careful. bitter coffee. So I'm gonna offer passage to some tube colonists, because that's easy money. And dear, I actually need to go back to the Admiralty's office. Can I? No, I actually can't. Oh no, here. I go back to the Admiralty's office by using this little button on the side here, this little tab. So, is there anything in particular you need that gives me the quest if I ask this? Alright, have fun, Boyan. It's no problem that you have to leave me. Don't leave me. No, it's fine. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later, hopefully. So, goodbye. Speak to our agent there. In return, we'll see that you're rewarded. We need to go to Mount Palmerston, somewhere northeast of London. And we already found Mount Palmerston. I found it yesterday evening, actually. So I'm confident to sail there for some monies. But aid supply is not very much, so I'm gonna buy some extra. I'm gonna buy some extra supplies here. See, now I only pay 10 echoes instead of 20 at Fenderbyte. So it pays to be wise on where you buy supplies. I'm gonna go to... I think... 13 supply? No, I'm gonna go to 15 supply and 20 fuel. That should be more than enough. And, of course, keep in mind that we're gonna get paid for our trip. And, in the end, it should be a lucrative deal. I think. I hope. Anyway, here we go. Once again. Turn off the lights. And full speed ahead, Captain.